Man, you wouldn't believe how deep I've dug myself into this mess. It all started on a day that should have been about celebration, our 10th wedding anniversary. There we were, in our quiet little suburb, candlelit dinner and all. But instead of basking in the glow, I'm sitting there, fighting this gnawing guilt in my gut over feeling so detached from her lately. Crazy, right? Fast forward to work, and there's this new girl in the office. Laughing at my jokes, flashing those glances. Just a bit of flirting, I told myself. Harmless fun. A little escape from the day-to-day drudgery of marriage. It's not like I was planning to do anything about it. But, man, was I kidding myself. Before I knew it, we're texting back and forth. It's not just work banter anymore, it's personal, it's intimate. I'm tiptoeing across the line into emotional infidelity, and the worst part? I'm not even trying to stop. So, I did something stupid. Told my wife I had a conference in the city, needed to stay overnight. The perfect cover for meeting up with my colleague. A complete lie. But here's where karma starts biting back. On the morning of my supposed conference, my wife decides to surprise me with lunch at work. Except, I'm not there. Can you imagine the look on her face when she finds out? Meanwhile, I'm off to the city, feeling a buzz from all this sneaking around, my phone blowing up with missed calls from her. Ignored every single one. I was diving headfirst into whatever this was, no looking back. And she's piecing it all together back home. Checks our bank account and bam, finds the hotel booking. The very proof of my lies, just sitting there in our shared history. The moment I saw her car pull into the hotel parking lot, my heart sank. Shit. I muttered under my breath, watching from the window as she scanned the rows of cars, finally stopping at mine. That sinking feeling? It was guilt, sure, but mixed with a dose of adrenaline I didn't want to admit was there. Inside, my mind was racing, guilt wrestling with excitement. A messed up cocktail of emotions, but there I was, trying to savor the thrill of the moment. It's like I was watching myself from outside, knowing damn well I was about to crash and burn. Then came her march to the front desk. I couldn't see her from where I was, but I pictured it clear as day, determined, maybe a little scared, but mostly pissed. And the receptionist? Poor guy didn't stand a chance. With a few words, my whole house of cards started tumbling down. She didn't even have to say my name. I could imagine the exchange, her demanding to know if I was there, and him, unwittingly sealing my fate. Waiting in the lobby, she must have felt like a century passed before I came down. Elevator dings, doors slide open, and there I am, stepping out into the final act of my own tragedy. No companion in sight, just me, looking every bit the guilty man I was. Really? This is what you're doing now? The ice in her voice could have stopped a bullet. My mouth opened, closed, words failing me. What could I say? That it meant nothing? That I was sorry? It was all bullshit, and we both knew it. I want a divorce. No yelling, no dramatics. Just 4 words, cutting through the noise like a knife. In that moment, I realized I'd lost her. Not just her love, but her respect, her trust. Everything. Driving back to what used to be our home, I found my stuff scattered on the front lawn. Clothes, books, bits of my life with her, all tossed out like trash. And there, peeking through the window, was our son. The look on his face? It was enough to shatter what was left of my heart. Confused, hurt, a little boy lost in the storm I'd created. In the days that followed, I heard through the grapevine that she'd been spending time with an old friend from high school. Damn, even thinking about it now twists the knife. But back then, it was a lifeline for her, a way to heal from the mess I'd made. And me? I was left to pick up the pieces of my own shattered life, wondering how it all went so wrong. This part of the story, raw and unfiltered, showcases the immediate aftermath of betrayal, highlighting the protagonist's internal conflict and the tangible consequences of his actions. Through direct dialogue and vivid descriptions, the narrative brings to life the painful unraveling of a marriage and the beginning of a long, hard road to redemption. The night was too quiet in my cramped apartment, the kind of silence that gets under your skin. So, I did what any bored, lonely guy might do. I fell down the rabbit hole of social media. And that's when I saw them. Pictures of my wife, well, ex-wife, I guess, looking happier than I'd seen her in years. And there he was, our so-called mutual friend, grinning at her side. My stomach knotted up, a mix of anger and something like grief. Jealousy's a hell of a thing. It turns your thoughts dark, makes you do things you'd never imagine. That's how I ended up sending those anonymous messages to him, thinking I could scare him off. Stay away from her, I wrote, hiding behind the coward's veil of anonymity. Each message sent was a pathetic attempt to claw back some control over a life that had slipped through my fingers. But it didn't go as planned. He wasn't scared off. Instead, he took to social media, making a vague post about facing threats but standing strong. Didn't name me, but the message was clear. He wasn't backing down. Seeing that, knowing that my attempts to intimidate him only made him look like the bigger man, it stung more than I cared to admit. What's worse, my little scheme backfired in ways I hadn't anticipated. My wife. She rallied to his side, their bond seemingly strengthened by adversity. It was as if my actions had handed them the very thing they needed to cement their relationship in the eyes of everyone who mattered. And me? I was just the villain in their love story, spiraling further into a pit of my own making. The final nail in the coffin was when they went public with their relationship. It was all over everyone's feeds, pictures of them together, declarations of love, the community's support pouring in. People I'd known for years, people who once respected me, were now cheering them on, offering congratulations and best wishes. Each comment felt like a personal betrayal, a reminder of how far I'd fallen from grace. Sitting there, in the glow of my phone's screen, I couldn't escape the bitter irony of it all. My efforts to separate them, to cause discord, had only drawn them closer together. And as for me, I'd alienated the few friends I had left, becoming a pariah in the very community I used to call home. The day the divorce papers landed on my doorstep hit me like a freight train. There they were, a stark black and white confirmation of my screw-ups, the finality of it all sinking in. It wasn't just the end of my marriage, it was like the last chapter of the life I once knew, once loved. In a last-ditch effort, fueled by a mix of desperation and genuine remorse, I penned a letter to her. It was everything I should have said before, all the apologies, the acknowledgments of my failures, and the too late declarations of my love. I poured my heart out, sealed it in an envelope, and sent it off, clinging to a sliver of hope that it might change something, anything. But hope's a tricky thing, isn't it? Turns out, she never even opened the letter. Found out through the grapevine that it went straight to the trash, unopened, unread. That hurt, sure, but it was also a clear message. She'd moved on, found happiness away from the wreckage I'd caused. And that letter? Just a ghost of the past, knocking on a door that was firmly shut. So, what did I do next? Probably the worst thing possible. In a moment of absolute idiocy, fueled by hurt and a misguided sense of entitlement, I confronted them. At a public event, no less. It was supposed to be a grand gesture, some kind of last stand to win her back. Instead, it was just sad, really. Me. Causing a scene, yelling things I can't even remember now, my emotions boiling over. It didn't end well. Security had to drag me out of there, a spectacle for all to see. My lowest point, laid bare for a crowd of onlookers, my dignity left somewhere on the floor of that venue. And, of course, word got out. It spread like wildfire, the story of my public meltdown, the cherry on top of the disaster Sunday that was my life. My professional reputation? Tarnished. My social circles? Evaporated. I became the guy people whispered about, the cautionary tale of how not to handle a breakup. Sitting alone in my apartment, the weight of my actions, the magnitude of my fall from grace, it all came crashing down. The shame, the regret, the utter isolation, it was all consuming. I'd become a pariah, a ghost haunting the edges of the life I once took for granted, left to ponder where it all went so wrong. There I was, in the dim light of my apartment, surrounded by the tangible reminders of a life I'd single-handedly torn apart. It's in moments like these, when the world outside goes quiet, that the truth hits hardest. I'd hurt the people I loved most, acted in ways that now seemed like they belonged to someone else, a stranger I couldn't understand or forgive. I figured maybe, just maybe, there was one last shot at redemption with my son. So, I reached out, heart heavy, hoping for a chance to explain, to apologize, to be the dad he deserved, even from a distance. But the silence that met my attempts was louder than any argument we'd ever had. Rejection, clear and unequivocal. The last bridge, once sturdy and sure, now burned to ashes. Sitting alone, the magnitude of my folly became unmistakably clear. Some mistakes, I realized, are so profound, their echoes reverberate far beyond the immediate fallout. They're the kind that carve deep grooves into the fabric of our lives, altering the course in ways that can't be undone. It was a bitter pill, swallowing the reality that certain things, once broken, are beyond repair. But life, as they say, goes on. And with that begrudging acceptance came the first steps towards something resembling atonement. Therapy sessions became my new routine. Places where I could unpack the mess I'd made, trying to make sense of the chaos, to learn, to grow. It was there, in the midst of seeking understanding, that I heard about their engagement. It felt like a punch to the gut, not because I hadn't seen it coming, but because it underscored just how completely I'd lost her, how final it all was. So, I did the only thing left to do. I started over. New city, new job, a chance to rebuild from the ground up. The whispers of my past couldn't reach me here, or so I hoped. I threw myself into community service, finding solace in the act of helping others. Maybe, I thought, this was a way to make amends, to contribute something positive to a world I'd otherwise only taken from. It was in these small, everyday acts of service that I found a semblance of peace. No, it wasn't redemption, not yet, anyway, but it was a start. And in the quiet moments, between the bustle of new beginnings and the solitude of long nights, I clung to the hope that, maybe, this was the path to becoming the person I should have been all along. Ever try making friends when your trust is shattered and guilt weighs you down like chains? Yeah, it's about as easy as it sounds. I've been putting myself out there, trying to stitch together some semblance of social life in this new city. But every handshake feels like a test, every smile a question. Can they see the mess I've made of things? Do they know? And then there's my boy. God, how I miss him. I catch glimpses of his life through social media, the achievements piling up, each one a bittersweet reminder of what I've lost. He's growing up fast, turning into the man I always hoped he'd be, and the pride is real. But so is the ache of not being there to see it in person. One night, feeling particularly low, I wrote him a letter. It was everything I wanted to say, all the apologies, the explanations, and the love. Pages filled with words that might never reach him. It's sitting in my drawer, a testament to my cowardice, or maybe my hope. I haven't decided yet. Then came the news that knocked the wind out of me. She married him. The guy the first once called a friend. I heard about their wedding through the grapevine, described in glowing terms. It was a beautiful ceremony, they said. My heart broke all over again, tears blurring the words as I pretended to be happy for her. In a moment of sheer desperation, I reached out to her, only to be met with the digital equivalent of a slammed door. Blocked. It was a clear, undeniable message. She's moved on. And here I am, still sifting through the wreckage. My therapist, bless her, keeps hammering on about forgiveness. Not for them, but for me. You need to forgive yourself, she says, as if it's that easy. The concept feels foreign, almost alien, given the hurt I've caused. But I'm trying. I started a journal, pouring my thoughts and regrets onto paper. It's a start, at least. Volunteering has become my refuge. There's something about helping those less fortunate that puts things in perspective. At the local charity, I'm not the guy who messed up his marriage, I'm just someone lending a hand. It's here, among boxes of donated goods and plans for community events, that I find a sliver of purpose. A sense of belonging that doesn't ask for my past as admission. This new chapter of my life is written in cautious steps, in attempts at redemption, and in the search for forgiveness, both from others and, most crucially, from myself. It's a slow, often painful process, but I'm learning that maybe, just maybe, there's a path forward. Even for someone who's lost as much as I have. Never thought I'd find solace in the soft eyes of a dog, but here we are. The day I walked into that shelter, I wasn't planning on much. But then, this scrappy little mutt with a wagging tail and a heart full of love decided I was his person. Suddenly, coming home to an otherwise empty house didn't feel so cold and quiet anymore. Just when I started to feel a bit more grounded, life threw another curveball my way. I heard through the grapevine that my ex-wife is expecting. The news hit me like a ton of bricks, a bitter reminder of the family life I had and lost. The life that could have been mine, had I not made those disastrous choices. That news stirred up a restlessness in me, a suffocating feeling that maybe it was time to uproot my life again. The memories, the what-ifs, they clung to me like shadows, whispering of a past I couldn't escape. In an attempt to distract myself, I picked up a couple of new hobbies. Started woodworking in my garage, losing hours shaping and crafting wood into something tangible. It was therapeutic, in a way, focusing on creating rather than dwelling on all that I'd destroyed. My son's birthday was a tough milestone. I wanted so badly to be a part of it, to show him I still cared, even from afar. So, I sent him a gift, no name attached, just a note that said, "Thinking of you." The fear of rejection was too much, but the need to reach out, even anonymously, was stronger. Seeking more than just the companionship of my four-legged friend, I found myself at a support group for divorced men. It was there, amidst the shared stories of loss, regret, and the struggle to move forward, that I found a semblance of understanding and forgiveness. Listening to others, I realized I wasn't alone in this journey of recovery and self-discovery. One of the hardest decisions I made was to sell my wedding ring. It was more than just a piece of jewelry. It was a symbol of a promise broken, a dream that had crumbled. Letting it go felt like finally accepting my new reality, stepping forward into a future I still had the power to shape. And so, here I am, standing under the vast expanse of the night sky, lost in thought. The stars above are a silent testament to the vastness of life, the infinite paths we can take. Reflecting on everything that's happened, I'm confronted with the truth of my actions, the depth of my regrets. Yet, amidst the darkness, there's a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there's a chance for redemption, for growth, for finding a way to forgive myself and embrace whatever comes next. It's a long road ahead, no doubt. But with each step, each act of kindness, whether toward myself or others, I'm slowly piecing together a new life from the fragments of the old. It's not the journey I expected, but it's the one I have. And maybe, just maybe, it'll lead me somewhere better, somewhere I can finally call